week. How about you? Do you want some beer? You know,
I brought all those beers today.
How many?
Like 100 for us.
Today's date is the 11th. He's very nervous. Are you
Yeah,
nervous?
right? You get nervous being on camera?
A little bit.
We're live.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not really on camera, you're just looking at a camera.
I know.
Hey all, welcome to Actifio Live on today, Thursday, October 11th. For those of you who are frequent watchers, there's been some changes. We now have a new camera and we're using a different kind of audio. So hopefully it's better. We will still continue to enhance what we're doing. I'm Jay, you know me, and joining me, co-host.
I'm Jason, you know me?
And then we also have an extra special guest straight from Austin, Texas.
I'm Chandra Reddy.
Chandra Reddy.
He's our boss.
Yes, so we have to be extra nice to him.
We do.
So this week I'm going to talk about the beer because I usually don't, but I am because I like wheat beer. I've said that before, and so this is an exchange student double IPA Hefeweizen. I like Hefeweizen. So I don't know what an IPA.
I like double IPAs.
Well, there you go, right?
So
So
it
we've
should work
got
out
sort of
for
the
both of us.
combination of here you go. You can do your famous roll technique to prepare for the drink. Sadly, Chandra is not partaking. He's missing out, but that's all okay.
So what does that do, the roll?
If a can sits for a long time, sediment can build up on the bottom, and therefore the top of the can will be less flavorful than the bottom of the can. So if you roll it or tap it or swish it around, if you want to like the bottom third of the can, it tries to evenly distribute the goodness.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. Never knew that.
So, well, that's what we're here for. This is on tech. You learn something new every
There you
day.
go.
That's why we do this.
So while Jason is opening, I think I might talk about one of the stories I have this week.
Yeah, Jay went overboard, picked 6 stories today. I told him you're going to do 2.
I'm very enthusiastic. I can't help myself. So one of the stories I thought was really interesting is, do any of you guys know who Banksy is?
Yes, artist.
Anyone?
Graffiti artist.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Banksy is a famous graffiti artist who goes around spray painting things.
Very famous.
But somehow people really like that. I don't know why.
Is he infamous?
Is it maybe
yes, he
infamous?
could be infamous as well. Yeah.
And so, but he's also a bit of a rebel. So he actually painted something on canvas, which was a little girl holding a balloon that looks like a heart. And it was a big deal because he's sort of an anti-commerce kind of guy, right? Free, everything should be free, that kind of thing. So they sold this thing for $1.4 million at Sotheby's. And you know what happened? As they sold it, he had put in a remote-controlled shredder. So they sold it, all of a sudden it goes, starts shredding into pieces. So this guy who paid $1.4 million for his picture watched it shred before his eyes.
Yeah.
Were you the bidder?
Why would he do that?
I think he doesn't like the idea that people are selling his things in a more commercial way, and he's more sort of a freedom kind of guy.
But he's also an artist, too, so this could be his another form of art, right? And people are debating whether the painting is worth more as it was or as it is now in pieces.
So what happens to the guy who paid 1.4 million?
I think I read that, and I think he gets his money back, and they're going to re-auction it in the shredded state.
Oh.
But I agree, Jason, it's going to be really interesting to see how does the shredded one price versus the original.
Exactly.
But knowing the shredded one was all over the news, like a really big deal.
Right.
So in fact, it could be worth more.
And they didn't have a backup of that?
No.
You do not have a backup of that, no. You're
No,
right.
but he put a video out, and he actually spent all this time designing this shredder and making it remotely operated. I mean, he spent a lot of time trying to get this thing set up. It's
Right.
quite sort of involved.
It's very interesting.
Yes, for sure.
All right, I picked 2 stories because, you know, I like to stay within the lanes here. The first one I'm going to talk about is Google+. So anyone of you guys use Google+? Or have a
I
Google
used to.
Account?
I didn't know it existed. It's been a long time ago. We all heard about Google+. Nobody used it. I thought it was dead.
Well, that's what everyone said,
Until
too.
it got hacked.
Right, it's been around for 2011. I had an account. I never really did anything with it. But apparently, between 2015 and 2018, over 500,000 accounts information was leaked. So things like your name, your email address, your birth date, your relationship status, your job status, where you've lived, all of that was leaked to these third-party developers who were using Google+. So
Was it an accident or?
They
wonder.
don't know if it was an accident or not. I think it was because it was leaked. It wasn't like a breach. It was leaked by accident. And they don't know if anything malicious has been done with this data either. They don't have any way to tell or know if anything malicious had happened with it. But apparently because of this now, Google Plus is dead. So within 10 months, it will be no more. So they've essentially canceled the project, canceled the platform. If you want to get your information off of there, you need to export it out of there. But Google Plus, if you have a Google Plus account, you won't have one in 10 months. So get your stuff out of there. Although it's probably been out of there anyway because it's been leaked anyway. So.
Well, it's funny because it always felt like they were trying to, Google that is, trying to get sort of the platform to compete with like the Facebook.
That's what you thought,
and there
right?
was, there was one before that too. I forget what it was called.
Oscar or something like that. It was like 5 or 6.
Yeah, they kept trying. They kept trying, and they were unsuccessful. But this was seemingly their big opportunity or their final. And I guess it's done. It's all said and done.
This smells very orangey.
I like that. I had a sampling. I have to say it was very good.
Cheers.
Look at that. Look at the color. Notice how cloudy it is.
It looks like orange juice. It smells like orange juice. Interesting.
It's got some body to it.
It's pretty thick. Does not have that bitter aftertaste that you get sometimes with a double IPA.
You never thought 4 or 5 months ago Jay would be calling saying beer has body.
There you go.
Well, this is what we've done to this guy.
Yeah.
I know. Although I don't go stand in lines yet. Maybe that's going to come someday. I'll leave that to Jason and Gio to do that.
Gotcha.
All right. So, did you want to do one, or do you want me to just
Go ahead.
All right. So the other one I thought was really interesting is that for the longest time people have pointed fingers at Microsoft. They're better now, but for many years they were about how Microsoft was anti-Linux and all about closed source and really trying to be not friendly to what could be viewed as a competitor in the Linux environments. And what happened this week is they open sourced 60,000 patents to, it's called the Open Invention Network. So anyone who's part of the Open Invention Network can get access and use these patents. Now there are more. I think there's another 30,000 in process. I think they're going to release later, but that's like pretty serious stuff that they're doing.
But what are these patents though? Like when it's about like search engine optimization patents or what?
It's all kinds of stuff related to their products, although they obviously don't release stuff. They're not doing Windows desktop and desktop application code.
Okay.
But a lot of the other stuff that's supporting their environments are there.
That's a lot of patents.
It's a lot of patents.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive.
Seems almost like a needle in a haystack though. Who's
I
gonna
know.
find something out of all these, right?
True. I assume there has to be some, I would imagine, quite valuable ones in there, but who really knows? You're right, because these big companies patent everything.
Right.
In the hope that maybe something will be relevant.
And this is their open. It's on some kind of platform, so there's some kind of catalog to do the
Yes.
search.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you join this thing, I guess you get access to it. But if you're not a member of it, I'm not sure you can use them.
I mean, if something comes out of it, I guess.
Right.
Oh, this is a big deal. I can think of an example back many years ago, right?
How many years ago?
10 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah, 10 is a lot in tech. So there was this cool algorithm that we were developing, which is all about how to minimize hitting the disk. As much as possible, try to get your information out of the memory cache. And the algorithm that we came up with was unfortunately already patented by IBM. And it's like such a beautiful algorithm wherein it looks up. There is a look ahead algorithm that you have to look up in cache, but how you look up and when you write and when you read, all of that matters. But that specific algorithm was patented by IBM, so there's no way you can get the same efficiency as any of the IBM's appliances can do. So by the fact that Microsoft has already opened up 60,000 patents, is a big thing for open source community.
But what does this mean? They've opened it. It means that you could reuse the technology.
Yeah, you could essentially reuse a technique that you would not have been able to use before.
So did your company at that time approach IBM to see if they could license it?
We just looked up all the patents and we found that this is exactly the same as that. So we had to drop that algorithm and use something
patents have a
else.
certain lifespan, right?
Is it 30 years?
I think so.
For software, it has to be renewed every 4 or 5 years, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So I still do get my reviews back from my CA days.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I thought the company would own the patent, not you. So
Company owns the patent, but since I am, I have a name on it. So they track you down and you know.
That's cool.
I don't have any patents in my name.
Me neither, sadly.
Yeah.
You're too cool for us.
Yeah.
That's why he's our special guest.
Exactly, totally.
All right, so I have another one, and this one is kind of interesting. How we're using tech to help make the environment a better place. So, hopefully, you're familiar with in the lower South Pacific Ocean. There's this huge plastic garbage patch, they call it, right? The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, I think it's called. There's all this plastic.
Terrible.
350 million tons of plastic, 1.7 trillion pieces of plastic just
Ugh.
floating in the ocean. This big, miles long, like
Disgusting.
disgustingness, right? And it's obviously hurting the environment. It's hurting the ocean. It's hurting the marine life there, and it's a big problem. And it's getting worse because the plastic is actually breaking up into smaller pieces,
Ugh.
which makes it even harder to clean up, and leads to animals eating it, fish eating it, and dying and things like that. So it's becoming a major environmental issue, as if it hasn't already been, because it's been there for a long time. And so I was searching the website, and I found that a research company, I don't know the name of it, they've created something called the Ocean Cleanup Systems 001. And basically what it is, it's this 2,000 long foot floating tube, big tube, and attached to the bottom of it is this 10-foot long sheet. And basically what happens is they'll deploy these tubes along an edge of the perimeter. And what will happen is through the motion of the waves and wind, it will actually start to float towards the center and collect the plastic, as well as the microplastics because of that 10-foot sheet underneath it. And what's neat about it as well is if a fish hits that sheet, the way the track is built, it actually will float down and go underneath it. So you don't have to worry about trapping marine life within that thing as well. And so what they're trying to do is clean up this ocean. They think that by doing this in 5 years, they think they'll be able to clean up half of that 350 million tons in 5 years.
So let's see if I understand. So they have this big sort of
Big,
space,
big floating tube,
and they just put all these tubes around it, and they sort of gradually shrink in on it, and
right. So essentially,
capture
it's
it.
Got two open ends. It's like a big long.
It's one tube that goes all the way
think of
around?
like a noodle. A noodle.
Yeah,
in a
noodle.
pool.
Yeah.
It's like that, but it's 2,000 feet long, and it's thick too. So no plastic can get over it. Waves can crash over it, but the plastic would typically stick there and go underneath into that 10-foot sheet. And then what it will do is, through the waves, it will come and it will collect it. And when it gets pretty full, they've got a ship that will
a big vacuum or something.
exactly vacuum all that plastic. And what they're doing is they're actually taking that plastic back to factories and recycling that plastic that they can. So they think that they can self-fund this thing by recycling the plastics
Wouldn't
and
that be
selling
awesome?
it to organizations that use recycled plastic. And like I said, they think in 5 years they'll be able to clean up half of it, and then by 2040, 90% of it. So, I know that there have been multiple initiatives to try and clean this thing up. And this seems like a promising option. Right now it's in a trial run, so it's out there right now in its first trial. It's 001, so it's the first one of them out there. But if it's successful, you can think about how they could create multiples of these and try and attack it from all different angles as opposed to just one 2,000 foot long section of it. So
When you think about it, 2,000 feet long doesn't feel that long.
no.
Considering how big this thing is,
Exactly.
right?
It's miles wide,
Yeah.
right? So
It's almost half a mile.
Yeah, it's half a mile, which is big, but I mean, this is a thousands and thousands of mile wide thing.
But maybe there are multiple of those.
well, that's what I'm saying. This is just the first one. It's a trial, but if it's successful, like I said, they could build multiple of them. Or
Right,
build a
right,
longer one,
right.
and try and attack this thing.
The other thing I wonder about is how do you prevent boats from running it over?
That's true. It has like every several hundred feet or whatever it is, there's like a light post on it.
I see. Oh, interesting.
So it does have a light post, so at night
see.
you wouldn't run into it because you
Maybe like a reflector for radar or whatever, so the boats can see it.
And it has lights on it, so it
Oh,
does
okay,
when
cool.
when it's going. So
Nice.
they've at least thought of that for the most part. But you don't think boats be going through that area anyway.
Maybe not. I don't know.
So I thought that was interesting. So the way tech is helping the ocean become a cleaner place.
Love it.
That's a cool thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of disasters like those in the Pacific, I heard a topic that we can about the hurricane that just hit Florida.
Yes, Hurricane Michael.
Hurricane Michael, yeah.
Yes.
it was? Yeah.
Unfortunate.
150 miles per hour.
Yeah, Category 4, almost a Category 5.
Yeah.
Destroyed the Florida Panhandle. I saw.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Like houses literally just gone.
It's terrible.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that poses an interesting challenge for IT sector, like companies who have lots and lots of servers, applications running in data centers. How do you prepare against disasters? I mean,
Hard.
It's like you can have backup generators, right? But then even they fail,
Right.
because nobody tried them.
Right. I also think about, I also think about these businesses like a CVS, right? They've got stores everywhere.
Yep.
And they're probably getting decimated by the storm. But so how do they protect that specific store's data?
Yeah.
How do they, make sure that the connection between the store
Yep.
and the data centers can become opened if it ever does go down?
Yep.
During the storm, because people will need their prescriptions, right? People will need to get goods, so they'll need
True.
to ensure that there's some kind of shipping or tracking there as well, right?
Yeah. Chances are all of the data, hopefully most of the data is centralized somewhere, but then that adds a risk of what if you lose the data center? What happens?
Right.
I remember when Sandy hit us, back then I was at a different company, and that data center, the GM of our company was sitting in the data center watching water creep up all the way in New Jersey, and we were probably a few inches away from water getting into the data center, and that was one of the larger data centers we had back then.
But it stopped,
It
thankfully.
stopped, thankfully, yeah.
Wow.
But the problem is for real. If that water would have come in, there were so many enterprise companies, infrastructure there. Of course, they all had backup and disaster
Right.
recovery procedures in place, replication in place to another data center. So if something bad would have happened in Philadelphia, there was a backup and DR data center in Denver, where everything would have come up.
Right.
But then the question becomes, how do you know that actually 1,000 machines
Right.
can actually
know.
recover
How do you get that piece
when
of
you
mind?
need it?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And
And
it's not
testing is
just
very
lighting up
difficult,
all
yeah.
these machines. There is a procedure. You have to have some applications come up first, and then other applications, and then other applications. There's an order in which they have to come up.
I agree.
Think about the networking complexity.
Yeah.
I mean, just 1,000, 5,000 machines, all the various networks, all the
Right.
firewall rules that you have to come up with. That's a lots and lots of complexity for disaster recovery.
I agree.
And
Not easy.
yeah,
And if you can't test it, how do you know it's going to work?
and to test it, is it easy to test?
Right.
I
No,
mean,
definitely not.
Takes forever.
I agree.
I was just talking to a customer today, earlier today, and they were like, "Oh, can we get rid of these tapes as well?" And of course, you can get rid of those tapes and directly back it up to Google Cloud. So the data is always warm, and you can quickly recover from it. But just the act of recovering so many machines is so tough.
Yeah.
And you add tapes into that mixture.
Oh, yeah.
It gets
True.
It's nasty. Agree. Right, so I want to just do one follow-up thing, because it seems like someone is watching us on Actifio OnTech, because it seems like when we bring up a problem, it gets fixed. So if you remember, we talked about Fortnite and PS3 and how they weren't allowing users to use different platforms. Well, guess what? Sony fixed that.
Right.
We talked about Verizon, how they were
Cutting off data to firefighters.
data for the
Yeah.
firefighters. Well, they stopped doing that too. So now yet another instance of something we talked about on tech being fixed. So I mentioned last week about the Amazon wage increase and how they took away bonuses as well
Right.
as RSUs for these warehouse employees. Well, to make up for it, Amazon has gone back and increased the wages by $1 or $1.25 for these specific workers that are affected. They also instituted bonuses, smaller bonuses, but monthly or quarter-end bonuses as well to try and make up for that difference as well. So once
There you
again,
go.
just an example of Actifio OnTech helping the world make a better place. That's what we do here. And with that, what do you think of the beer?
It's good.
You like it?
Yes, really, I like
Yeah,
it.
I like
I like
it
the
too.
color.
Yeah, I've never even knew there was a double IPA, Hefeweizen,
Me neither.
before,
You did a good job with it.
and
Yeah.
it's pretty good. And our resident beer expert, Mr. Gio Tropiano, agrees. So I think they did a great job with it. So it was a collab between Cloudwater Brewing and Trillium Brewing,
Oh, I missed that part.
college exchange student. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of the can art, but I am a fan of the beer. I like it.
Yeah.
So with that, that's Actifio OnTech for October 11th. Have a great week. Cheers. I'll be out next week and the week after that.
Well, aren't you a fancy guy?
I will. So we're going to the wife and I are going out to Italy for a little vacay.
I assume you'll be watching us live in Italy.
No.
Oh.
But you know what? Cheers, everyone. I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Thanks for watching.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.